Councillor Corbyn and Councillor Hock sent their apologies. No public questions received. No councillor questions received. No dispensations received.
Oh, that helps. Yeah. Right. Well, without wishing to steal any of Sarah's thunder with the full report later, but there have been some amazing community engagements since the last meeting. The impact that the pantry has on those who need the help, the clothing drive with the outgrown coats, etc., can be passed on to people who otherwise would go without, which is a great display of empathy and community spirit. The way, under Sarah's guidance, the community connections with other groups and resident empowerment has been phenomenal. The Community Services Department is one in the council which shouldn't have a surplus of funds, but sometimes does. It has continued to grow in delivery and meet within its means, serving the many residents who engage with the services. Again, not wishing to steal the RFO's thunder either, but with the clearer reporting, which you will all see later, it is easy for any interested resident to see how and why delivering these services has helped to work with other established groups and empower residents to start new ones. Now, if I may take the liberty to stray into the murky waters of public toilets, there is a misconception that all the Market Square toilets will close in March. This is not the case. The disabled toilet was never going to close to the public. The recent current issue that we have relates to the pump, which serves all the toilets. This failure was unexpected and would be necessary to ensure the disabled loo remains open and accessible. I've asked a couple of questions of the officers for clarity. So obviously we now know that the pump is broken because people have put underwear in the system. Who puts underwear in the system? As you'll see, the financial decisions are never easy and often do not meet all residents' or councillors' desires at either SCC or Wilts level. It is fine to be challenged about political decisions, but when those attacks become personal from members of the public or councillors, it is not acceptable and becomes something else, bullying, something we should all not tolerate. SCC has a budget which did get cross-party support at full F&G, proposed and seconded by the opposition. So the budget has been set as a collective, and each committee's budget forms part of that for the upcoming year, which promises to be full of great community effort and aspiration for the city as a whole. This may well be my last community services I serve as chair, but I would like to say it has been an enjoyable experience, and the interactions with residents and the staff at SCC have been largely positive. Hopefully I'll return in May, but if not, it's been a pleasure, and I have many cherished memories.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's a very good report. The interesting question of why would anybody block the system up with underwear? And I did wonder if it was either a homeless person or somebody desperate trying to get their underwear cleaned, and that was the only reason why this happened. But I'm glad officers are working on that, and thanks for your reassurance.
Thank you. Anybody else for anything? No?
Just that we do have another meeting of this committee in April, I think. So this won't be our last one.
Oh, thank you for telling me that. I get another one. Yay! Right, so shall we move on to the budget monitoring report for 24-25?
Good evening, everybody. So as you'll see and have become familiar with, moving straight to Appendix A, as I've no kind of necessary reporting in a kind of 50 grand either way kind of anomaly. But what we do have, I wanted to point out to you, is the community development projects, that's PRO. That's 5 rows down. You will see that there's an underspend there of around just over £3,000. I will be talking about this in my update, but we've been holding that money as part of the Friary Garden redevelopment project, which has been dependent on spades in the ground and our colleagues at Wiltshire Council. I do have an assurance that that's moving forward. So I just wanted to point that one out. And then also to say that at this point where we've got a projected, an underspend here, on the pantry budget, I would just say that there's a number of grants that go over the end of the financial year and donations for that activity that are held within that part, to the tune of around £8,500. So just to give you that context, that's not a kind of a factual underspend, that is a holding of grants, about half of that. If anybody has any other questions.
Any questions? No? Councillor Nettle.
Thank you. I can't see it on there, so it could be my eyes. And my laptop's topped as well. But does the lottery come up on there?
No, there is I have a detailed lottery report in my community services update. The reason it doesn't come up on there is that it doesn't cost us any money. So it doesn't have a budget line. So the money that comes in for the lottery goes back out in prizes or to the causes.
But isn't there an admin charge?
It's held by Gatherwell, who run
Right.
the lottery.
Yep.
So the service who run the lottery portal. So it doesn't come through our books at all.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Nettle, there are some papers next to Councillor Ridout if you'd like them. Councillor Ridout.
The lunch clubs.
Mm-hmm.
That looks incredible.
Yes. So do you just want a little bit more info?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Sorry, I've printed this in A5 size and I don't have my glasses. So where are we? Lunch clubs. Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. That is an incorrect sum. That is too low. I will have a word with, sorry, I didn't clock that because it was a small variance. Our lunch club's budget, though, is only £2,000 for the year. And we have, as part of the budget setting process, increased that in conversations to have a third setting. And this year, one of our lunch clubs only ran for half the year because they're looking for a suitable venue. So it's been relatively contained in this financial year. Apologies for that error. Yes, £600 for 2 lunch clubs. Yeah.
I think you can move on to the next bit.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the community service update now, this far into February, and apologies for my illness and the cancellation of the last meeting, seems an awful long time ago, but it is as was written for the 3rd of February. We'll start with the pantry update. So as you've now become accustomed to my line graph, we have a comparison there between the 2023 shops and the 2024 shops. What this shows is consistently higher use since August 2024. Sorry, I'm just going to move my mic. January 2025 shows a continuing upward trend, where you get a small drop at the end of at the end of November. It's still representing slightly higher than the previous year. We have a reach of 1,292 household members in the 9 weeks prior to the writing of this report, which was the 3rd week of January. So that's all of the children and other adults in those households. Remembering that our active membership is about who has shopped with us in the last 9 weeks. We're seeing we saw a significant number of new applications in September to December, but we're not seeing a parallel continuous exponential rise of memberships, which is showing us again that we are seeing many, many more members who use us for a fixed period of time and then may not need our service, or we are able to redirect them to other nearby services, which has become absolutely essential. I genuinely believe that if the Sarum and Longhedge Pantry didn't exist, we would be overwhelmed. Because people from the top edge of our city are travelling upwards in that direction to visit that. December was incredibly busy. So we were only open for 3 weeks, but you'll still see that spike. And compared to last year, it is really quite significant. We opened for just an additional 3 hours. So we opened for essentially a full day on the Wednesday before Christmas rather than our shortened usual evening hours. And that was an incredibly busy session. We have just implemented a new ticket system, and we think that that has largely resolved that standing in the large queue outside the pantry issue. So if you don't see the queue, it doesn't mean that we've got less people. It just means that we've been working really hard with the members of the pantry to resolve that feeling of having to stand outside the pantry and everybody seeing you. So what that means is they can come and pick a ticket up at 4 different half-an-hour intervals before we come. People are becoming much, much more confident that there will be food if they come later in the day as well, which has just been food insecurity is a very significant stress. And so we had a lot of people who were simply queuing because they needed to know that they were going to be able to get the food. So between Abby and the volunteer team doing a lot of talking and listening, I think we've come to a really good solution. And I say Abby, the pantry manager, is really to be congratulated for that, because we've been looking for a solution for that for 3 years. We've also implemented a basket scheme for the fruit and veg. We've never limited the amount of fruit and veg. However, our sources of veg donations have become less reliable. Sometimes we have a lot, but sometimes we really don't have that much. And that means that what we're doing is we're having a basket size for 1 and 2 person households, a basket size for 3 to 5 person households, and 6 and above have a larger, small crate, really, for their family. And that's gone incredibly well, again, with the members. It's visual, so they don't have to worry about how much they're taking. Are they taking too much? Is somebody going to say, can you put that back? It's really simple and visual, and kind of moving to those methods is really, really key. And it's lowered tensions. It's taken a bit of responsibility from volunteers, and it's become a much more relaxed environment as a consequence. So moving on. Oh, yes.
Councillor Nettle.
I'm so sorry, Chair. I forgot to declare an interest. As a trustee of Safer and Supportive Salisbury, we are a tenant of the pantry, and I wouldn't want anybody to think that my next question has anything to do with that. So I notice in this, and I always like your graphs, unfortunately on paper it only goes up to September, but I can see it goes all the way there.
It goes to, yes, just to December though, because when I wrote the report, I didn't have the full January month.
But anyway, it's my question really is, it's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. I understand December, why December would be busy, but when you look at the summer holidays, in fact, August, it's probably sort of average, isn't it? Which we understand that those children that get free school meals, etc., during the term time, and the whole problem of feeding families during the summer holidays, you would have thought there would have been a peak there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Logically. And similarly, I would have expected, but there is a sort of one in April, and I can't remember if last year Easter was April time, possibly was, but it is, I was just surprised at that long period of July, August, where it does seem to be, I wouldn't say that everybody's on holiday, but it does seem to
There
be
is a little
quieter.
bit of that, though, that, you know, that people are away and visiting
Yeah.
family. That does impact it. Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Can I just say that the families do get given vouchers so that they can spend themselves. So if they're entitled to free school meals, then the school gets given the same amount in vouchers that they can give to the families, which we do, and they can then spend it themselves in their chosen supermarkets. So I think that will help some families as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. Yeah, just a quick question. I had actually noticed a reduction in the queue. Often my nursery drop-off cycles me past. I had noticed there's less or a much smaller queue regularly. It's kind of nice to hear that's the reason why.
Yeah.
I never quite know how to feel when I look at this line graph. I think maybe I've asked this question before or had this sort of wonder before, because it's, you know, on the one hand you go, look at all these extra numbers. Isn't that good? The number of
Oh, no.
more
yes.
people
No,
that
that's
we
not
can.
the intention. Sorry.
but in you know, in a sense, if I guess that is the question I'm asking, is it a good thing in the sense that it's reaching more people and capacity has increased, or is it a bad thing in that, you know, the times are worse out there? You know, is this indicative of things being generally worse, or is this a question of we are reaching more people and bringing them in?
Yes, certainly we are reaching more people. Certainly the pattern of the Wednesday evenings, that's where the increase in numbers has come. That people who cannot reach us during the day are now able to access the service on a consistent basis. So there's definitely that. It tells us as managers of the pantry where we can preempt spikes. So that's news about fuel caps, any benefits related news, even though it's not being implemented at that moment, when it's a news story, you see a spike. And so we can kind of track those patterns. And I suppose one of the other things that really this tells us as a council is, you know, I would hope, perhaps naively, that there's a world in which that graph starts going down and we start looking at how we can, you know, direct our resources in new directions. Can I see that happening in the near future? Probably not. But, you know, that would be the hope. And I think with increased levels of financial and sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Financial capital advice, you know, understanding your finances, etc., available in the city, which has been a real significant increase across a number of organisations. The Citizens Advice Bureau at the working with the food bank, Acorn working with us, etc. You know, there's lots of that advice, and I do think that's a bit of a shift for our city and people being able to take control of it. I would hope to see that graph start to point down.
Councillor Nettle, did you have something else?
I did, and it's sort of, Sarah has very kindly covered a little bit of it, and it is the area that we were told, and you, Madam Chairman, will know this, Wiltshire Council, is accessing the hard to reach is challenging. And it doesn't matter what organisation you are. And I just wonder whether you have statistics on, or view, or just a gut feeling maybe, on whether we are actually doing that through the pantry.
Well, I suppose we have a record of why people sign up in the first place, should they choose to share that with us. By and large, that is either significant, sudden, urgent expenditure, boiler breaks, car breaks down, those sorts of things, which is you probably categorise those as the just about managings, and then a catastrophe means that they are no longer managing. And the other cause is benefits delays, or benefits stopped for some reason for a change in kind of part-time work circumstances, and then the benefits are stopped and reviewed and all of that. That's a significant issue. So I suppose in answer to your question, from the conversations that we have at the point of membership, I would say that we are reaching the right people. The other flip side of that conversation, or the flip side of that for us as a council, even if those numbers go down, is that we as a council are meeting people at a point where we couldn't have reached them before.
Yeah.
To go on to that's what it changes for the community development side of what we do, is because people come to you for a fundamental need, and then you can have a relationship with them across other needs, social interaction, all of those sorts of things.
I mean, it's just interesting that all governments, in fact, the previous and this one, find this a challenge when there is funding available for the hard to reach. And the essence behind it is that local communities probably know those people. Large organisations, or dare I say, councils, may not know those people. And I just find that whether it's Elaborate or whether it's Safe and Supportive Salisbury or any other organisation or the food bank, then we all know those people. And some of them we see on a regular basis. And it's how to plug them in to this kind of access.
Into the support that's available.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there is support for people. And I just, sorry, Madam Chairman, I've gone on a bit now. But what I meant is that this is great to see what we're doing here. But I always, when I read about money being offered to the hard to reach, I wonder, we know where those people are, but how do we get them in there?
Yeah, I do think that, though, that offering a food-based service is one of the ways you meet those people.
The way to everyone's heart is through their stomach.
Yeah.
Councillor King.
Most of the people that Elaborate deal with are shown and signposted. And I know that several of people who are in our hostel in Barnard Street go to the pantry.
Yeah, it's a part of an induction pack.
Yeah, they're sort of signposted. We have homes right across Salisbury, various homes, just 3-4 bed homes, and they're all directed to where they can get help.
I think the work that's delivered is the complete display of community connection. And once those people know where to go and actually that it's a friendly team, then it makes it easier for them to pass on that information. So the word of mouth can then spread. It is sad in the time we're in that we do need these services, but actually we need people like Sarah and others to do that and be visionary and deliver it. And we've got that. We had that.
I would like to put on record, though, that it's almost impossible for Abby, because of her personal circumstances, to attend these evening meetings. But, she's doing an absolutely cracking job.
I know. She did before.
Okay. So again, this is where it starts to feel like this was an absolute age ago. But I think the reason I wanted to bring this, kind of highlight this to your attention, is because this was the community came to us. A local business came to us and said, can we do this for you? And it's a phenomenal relationship, and we must keep hold of that relationship. 306 individual toys distributed to pantry members, £10,000 worth of toys purchased, all fundraised by that business and then local and social networks. So little, honestly, so little effort by us. I did have the joy of a trolley dash around Smiths to help, but also it gave so much to us, bringing all of our volunteers together to wrap all those presents, and it became part of our Christmas feeling as well. It was a really phenomenal project. And just hearing from pantry members, and I will just read you a few quotes before we move on. Sorry, my screen's gone to sleep. So I'm just going to read you a few. Knowing whether there was a present coming took the pressure off. It's awful, the thought that they'll go back after Christmas talking about what they got for Christmas and they won't be able to join in. So just a little bit of an insight. You know, we would have had literally nothing this year. That was huge, and you know, we can't really take much credit for it, but what we can do is connect that community impetus to do something with the people who need it. So, and if we can do that more, brilliant. Similarly, bring it into work. That's a relationship really with one individual woman who wants to do a great thing. Her name is Sharon Chandler, and who, you know, who coordinated all of this and stood in the foyer of Tesco's Extra with a massive toy dog selling raffle tickets for a week and a half. So with the proceeds of that, then went and did a Christmas treats shop in Tesco's and brought it to us on top of all of the tins that were donated. So incredible, huge public thanks to Sharon and to all the other people who helped with that. And then in a similar vein, although this is working with an organisation, the Acorn Community Bank work, I would just like to reiterate to anybody who knows of anything, I'm working with them at the moment to support them on their funding applications and writing testimonials, etc., to continue their work, because their core funding for what they're doing does run out on March the 31st. They have got some additional grants in, but it's very hand to mouth, and we want to try to find a way to help and sustain that. So, you know, if you know of any funding opportunities beyond our well-known ones, please do let me know. So we have significantly increased the hyper-local promotion of the service into the primary schools through posters and social media campaigns supported by local on-site in Bemerton Heath, through the pantry, through the community cafe, and the wellbeing and prevention team at Wiltshire Council have been great as well. That has seen an uptick in the number of referrals, and they are also, with their second financial inclusion worker, now working with our adults and older people officer, and this is news, but our new children and families officer, to identify places, exactly as Jeremy said, to go to where they already are and offer advice. So to attend groups, etc. And again, reflecting back on Christmas, but, you know, a big thank you to the communities team for delivering 12 quite significant community events across December. A community Christmas party for adults and older people at Bemerton Heath, a family Christmas party at both the Friary Centre and Bemerton. Bemerton did get a visit from Santa and the Friary didn't, so we do need to sort that out for next year. The LGBTQ Youth Club Christmas party was a joy as well. We took the Friary Hangout Youth Club to Sarum Lights, which is a relationship with their new engagement director and giving young people opportunities to attend things they wouldn't be able to afford to. The Community Cafe Christmas Lunch, which there's more highlights of shortly. The Pantry Volunteers Christmas Party, which is provided by Salisbury Manor. So that's something we kind of facilitate, but we don't pay for. You might find that this is the reason for some of my underspends. It's because people keep offering us things for free, which is lovely. We took part in the Christmas Tree Festival at St Thomas's and went along with Liv McLennan to a carol concert where some of the Live and Breathe choir singers who meet at Bemerton Heath Community Centre were performing. And we also had a community centre partners mince pies, which actually was very valuable. So we brought together our hirers, organisations who bob in and out, the community conversations team, who all came together, and several ideas and actually new bookings arose as that. That wasn't the intention. The intention was to say thank you, because the network of what we do is not just reliant on the staff that we have, it's reliant on the relationships we have with a number of organisations. And we also went and supported the food bank Christmas party at St. Michael's on the 23rd. So it was a busy Christmas, but incredibly well attended events. The community cafe Christmas party and the winter clothing event was sort of the Christmas wraparound for them. So that's providing Christmas dinner for 60 people. Huge thanks to Sherry Kane, our projects officer. So the Community Cafe Lunch Club has 15 to 20 regular attenders. That's not the numbers who attend the cafe. Those are the people who stop for lunch. The winter clothing event, we had 40 coats donated, plus various other winter woolies and boots and all sorts of things. And we did have 40 people, which was a lower attendance than we've had in the past. But again, it was about who we were having, and we had 7 members of the community who are homeless attend those, who went away with a significant amount of stuff. So again, it's about who you're reaching with that. Pretty much everything went. Yes, sorry, I felt like there was another thing to say and now it's gone. Next slide, please. So lots of new fun things happening for the new year. Home Instead Dementia Group have become the first regular booking in our new space that we've created at the front of the Bemerton Heath Community Centre. We now have a third hireable space. Get Out, Get Active is a physical activity opportunity for adults with special educational needs and disabilities. It's incredibly vibrant, quite hard to get your work done while it's going on because it sounds really good fun. We have the BSL course that started on the 17th of January for the home educated community, which has been going incredibly well. And we continue to work with Rahima on looking for other groups who want to learn and providing space for that. Beat the Winter Blues actually had a little bit of it. We had to put a pin in that because we now have a kiln, a glass kiln and a ceramics kiln at the Bemerton Heath Centre, which was a grant applied for by Kaleidoscope, our arts group. They wanted to run a ceramics course, but what they realised is they need to learn how to use the kilns first. So that is what they are doing, and then they'll run their course after that. So that switches from us paying a practitioner every year to run a course to the people who have previously benefited from it, learning a skill and then running it themselves. So that's the process. And we have now started the Little Pals Parents Group, run by local parents who we've done safeguarding inductions with, have signed them up as volunteers, and are working alongside our Children and Families Officer to gain the confidence to just hold that space for local parents. They also applied for a grant supported by Jane Wise and gained a grant for equipment. So our community centre is now brimming with new kit as a consequence, held for those residents. Next slide, please. Here we go. So, the Salisbury City Community Lottery, which you haven't had a report for a very long time. So, as an additional background paper, this is the report pulled from the Gatherwell site for you to peruse, reminding that the lottery costs us no money to run, apart from £20 a year to re-register. So this data is pulled from the Gatherwell lottery site. However, a caveat on the data, you will notice that the maths does not work, and it's about how the report from the site gets pulled. It's not too hard to show that 710 tickets does not amount to £36,000 of annual sales. That is because I pulled it in January and it would only show me January's data in the top line, whereas the other figures underneath are annualized figures. I don't know why it won't do it in any other way, but it won't. But at least it gives you an indicator there of how many tickets are sold in a month and how many players in that month, and then the annualized ticket sales, so what that translates into over a year. We have 55 causes. We are undergoing a bit of a review. Some of them are inactive, so we need to go and think that we've got about 43 active local good causes. So we have had Wellbeing and Wildlife CIC and Salisbury Samaritans have become recent good causes. We've had about 6 or 7 new, including Sounds Better CIC, who do the Live and Breathe. They are much more active, the new ones, which will see a sort of an increase in use, because it's about the good causes, promoting that that's how people can support them, really, that gets it moving. But I'm working with Charlotte before I go on a series of social media case studies for the promotion of the lottery, using these kind of top fundraisers. Look at how you can raise funds through these means. Sorry, that's on the next slide. Yeah, so our top fundraisers have been approached about little case studies about how they do that well. And just obviously good news stories there to draw people's attention to the fact that we have this provision in the city. And it's not an insignificant amount annually. Community funds raised to date, £27,000. No, so sorry, funds raised to date across all causes, £105,000. £27,000 is has come into Salisbury Pantry and our own positive works. Any questions? No. No. And then just the last one, which I've already alluded to. So I do now have a confirmation that the paving area, excluding the 2 paths to the bottom, leading to where the star is a veg growing patch. So that's a second phase in plan, and the path out down to the side of the Mugger to the left. So the core, the patio at the back of the centre, and that square in the middle should start before the end of March. So they will pave it, and then our funds is community engagement work with the community garden designer and the planters. So then community sourced furniture is about things like working alongside Men's Shed, and also the church group that meet there every Sunday, some of whom have significant building skills that they're happy to share with us, actually for the community to create the garden furniture themselves.
That's all great. Councillor King.
I used to run the community centre on behalf of Elaborate some years ago, and I always felt that the garden needed something. We didn't have any funds to do anything with, so I find this very exciting. When I saw it, I thought really community-led, because at the time I was trying to get the hall used by the community, and I did a lot of work around the estate trying to get people to use the hall. It's lovely to see that the hall is being used more now and that the garden is coming on. So well done.
Yeah,
That's good.
and the committee member, the kind of garden committee that I'm decided I'm calling it, are really engaged. They've been very patient while we've been waiting for the infrastructure part to happen, but they're still there, and I'm sure they'll hold it well.
That's good. Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, sorry, could I say one more thing before the end of that item? This is my last community services. And I wanted to say an incredible thanks to you all for your support, for your questions, for your support as councillors beyond this. I've had pretty much nothing but positive energy from the councillors across my 4 years here. And I would really ask that you all kind of share that back to your groups. So thank you.
Thank you. And share back thanks to all of your team too.
Chair, sorry. Can I just quickly, when is your last day, Sarah?
14th of April.
Too soon.
Yeah. I will still be doing the annual parish meeting though, I think. I think that's before. So full reports to come. Okay, so this is amendments to the rent reduction policy draft that you've seen before, based on the community consultation, the tenant consultation, which I have to say was an incredibly positive process. Everybody engaged well, everybody understood the parameters. not really any pushback to speak of, and some very, very useful suggestions that have led to these amendments. So just to be clear, this is from the, in 2.7, at the bottom of the bullet points. So the draft policy was circulated to tenants on the 2nd of January, 2 consultations out in Heath. Those who weren't able to do that arranged separate conversations with me. So 2 of the tenants had separate conversations. The feedback was shared with Events, Grants and Markets. It's here today to ask you to approve and recommend to full council because it's a policy. So just to give an overview of the changes following a consultation, the tenants just asked for a better definition of what net value is, because there is a clause in there about net value over £100,000 means you're ineligible. Steve provided me with some language for that, which I have shared, and people were happy with the clarification. Then at 3.2, inclusion of the option to apply for a rent reduction period extension. This conversation came from, being a year and a half into your rent reduction period and then applying for a 5-year or 3-year grant that required you to be secure. So that I would list that as a evidence of need to extend, but just giving you as councillors the option to allow people to do that. And then this was the biggest thing. What they felt was that saying, you tell us what level of subsidy you're going to apply for. Given that the application would go to councillors as exempt business first and then in a public meeting, that after the exempt business, they would like a recommendation from councillors on what level of subsidy they are applying for, which would enable them to adjust their case or argument before it goes to you again. Because in that context, you'd still be applying all of the same kind of round view of their finances and their community impact, but then just reflecting that back to them before the final application. Okay. And then this was very helpful. The suggestion was, shouldn't you tell us that it's up to us to report when we're supposed to report rather than having to remind us? And I said, yes. So just a clarification that tenants know their reporting dates and may not receive a reminder. So the recommendation is that amendments to the policy draft are approved by the committee and that the policy draft is recommended to full council.
Sam.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sarah, for this. It's been a really good back and forth. With lots of us involved. I'm really pleased to see it, and I have no problem with anything that's here. I think the overall imperative was to try and get a rent reduction policy that was a little bit more fair, both to the tenants and to the council. And I think this absolutely achieves that, and I've got no problem with taking this to full council. I think on a separate note, and I'll happily say this at full council as well, I think where we have without sort of being critical of anyone, where we have sort of tenants, where we as a city council have tenants, I think this almost needs to be the gold standard moving forward in terms of consulting them to changes to the terms of their tenancies. I'm thinking about the allotments in this case. If we'd gone through even a fraction of this process with them, I think they would all have, well, maybe they would not all have been happy, but they would certainly have all have been more informed, which has nothing to do with the scope of this committee or the scope of this item, so I won't talk about it any longer. But I think that is something that we as a council need to take away as a learning lesson, a point of learning. Otherwise, I'm very happy to move item 4.
Councillor Nettle.
Be delighted to second that, Chair.
Thank you. All in favour? Yeah. Happy to go with it then. I do believe you're all free to go.
Thank
Thank you very
everybody.
much.